Hi everyone and welcome to Let's Talk Solutions, our fourth talk. And today we're talking about closing the divide. The actual title of this talk is Closing the Divide 2, because in December we had a conversation called How to Close the Divide. And at the time, there was a lot of people really struggling with the particular issue at the time was whether people have had the vaccine or whether they hadn't, and people weren't talking to each other. They were getting divorced. People were losing 50-year-old friendships, and it really was a very sad state of affairs. And vaccines has always been a very controversial topic, and even not just the COVID vaccine, but if people are generally unvaccinated, that can be a bit of a threat to people too, especially if they have children. So it's a very conscientious topic, controversial topic. And people have really struggled with that and had a lot of difficulty. So we had a really lovely talk. And today what we're going to discuss is just ways that we can come together as one. Remember that we are all one and love each other without judging each other, no matter what our opinions are, or no matter what our choices are in life, because we all make different choices and that's fine. So each person can speak for up to 3 minutes at a time, and then you're welcome to come back in, but we just want to keep the conversation flowing. So that's the format of the conversation, and anyone can come in. And if you know how to raise your hand, or you can just do it visually like that, if you don't know how to do it on the computer. And I will pick you in the order that you come in at.
You want me to time it, Johnny?
That would be lovely, Gail.
I've just got to go get my phone though.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So I was at a small camping holiday this weekend, and it was just so lovely to be with some sort of spiritual people who are tuned in and having real conversations about life and the deeper issues and healing, ancestral healing, and dancing mostly, because it was an ecstatic dance weekend. But I don't know, how many people were there, Alberto? Maybe 50 or so?
Yeah, around 50 persons, yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's just so nice to be talking to people. So that's the intention today. We're going to have a conversation. So does anyone have some thoughts about how we can close the divide, and or how can we deal with division? So if there is division in our lives, or we have friends who are experiencing a difficult division for whatever reason, how can we assist them, or how can we help ourselves?
And by a difficult division, what do you mean, Johnny?
Well, any example of where two people have a difference of opinion. Now, before Brexit, we all had difference of opinion, but we didn't really, we laughed about it, we joked about it, and life went on as normal, more or less. But since it feels like Brexit was a big divide between people.
Absolutely.
It was. And since that ended, people have kind of started talking to each other again, even though they might have voted to leave or voted to stay. But then COVID came along, and that really did cause, in my opinion, a lot of problems for lots of people. So the divide is just where people get divided for whatever reason. So Fiona, what would you like to say about that?
Well, I wrote something a few years ago after some very intense experiences in a close relationship. And what I realized was that in the middle of an argument with someone, we were always at loggerheads about the different ideas. Like, I liked crop circles, this person didn't. I liked aliens, this person didn't. And one day we just stopped and we sort of looked into ourselves, and he just turned around, he went, "I'm feeling unheard and belittled." And I went, "That's exactly what I'm feeling. And and then I read Thich Nhat Hanh, and he said that always in conflict, the two people are feeling the same thing. There's always this aspect of conflict. So if we can raise the level really to the emotional and realize that the people that are taking the vaccines and they're afraid, and they're also, you know, and we're afraid of the vaccine, or maybe not, I can't speak for everyone, and the government controls, and they're afraid of the disease, and you know, so on the emotional level, we're actually one. That's my point.
Thank you, Fiona. Yeah, I completely agree. You've reminded me of something, because I was at a baptism recently at church, and there was a lady who goes to church who got up during the baptism and played her violin for a short while. And I was sat in the second row, and in front of me was a girl who's getting baptized and the missionary who was baptizing. They both dressed in white and had these two heads and this vision of this woman playing a violin. So I started filming it because I thought, oh, this is a lovely moment.
Oh.
I proudly went up to her afterwards and said, oh yeah, by the way, I got some video of you. And she completely freaked.
Oh.
She's a real perfectionist. She likes to plan things. She thought that you're not allowed to film during baptisms, which is not the case. You're actually only not allowed to film the actual baptism. But she got very triggered.
Oh.
And I got very triggered because this is like my art. So I sort of noticed it and I realized I was triggered. So I didn't get angry on it, I think, because I realized I was in a state of reaction.
Yeah.
And there's no point in really trying to deal with something when two people are in a state of reaction.
Yeah.
So I just sort of accepted. I said I apologized and I deleted the video, and
Very good.
And that was that. But you know, when I saw her again a week later, she came over and apologized, and I apologized for not. I just apologized because I thought, well, it's better to apologize, even if I feel I'm wrong, right, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's better to just make peace with that
make
person.
the peace, yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, sometimes people are more attached to being right than they are to just letting go of that and just, yeah, you know, I'm sorry, you know. I mean, we're all fallible humans. We all make mistakes. So how do we learn to live with each other and deal with little things that, you know, upset us?
Very well done, Johnny.
Thank you, Fiona. Christine, go ahead.
I was at a festival 2 weeks ago called Uprise and Shine, which was a like a freedom festival in Battle. And there was a guy talking about conflict resolutions, and he said when two people come together, this is talking about like vaccines and lockdowns and things like that. If you, and I suppose anything, any issue, if you start saying facts at the person, they're more likely to actually believe stronger what they believed in the first place. So no matter what you say is not going to make any difference. It's just going to make them stronger. And if they come back at you with facts, it's going to make you stronger in yours. But if you sit and you listen to someone and just say, well, tell me about it, or that must have been really hard for you that you felt scared, tell me about it. After they've said that, you're more likely to be able to have a conversation and listen to each other.
I completely agree. Who would like to make the next comment?
I can go next if that's okay.
Yes, please.
It's very much related to that, since the latest two comments about learning to listen to the person and make them feel listened as well. I was listening to an audiobook 2 or 3 months ago about negotiation and how in the FBI they negotiated with difficult situations, terrorists and things like that. And they developed a system where the main thing was based in the emotions of the two persons negotiating. And one of them was the basic ones, to make the other person feel that it's important enough to be listened and to be actively listened. So here's a bit what we were discussing is, the emotions involved in this division. It feels like a negotiation. Who is going to be right? Who is going to be more aggressive with the facts or whatever? But yeah, we forget about the emotions of both persons talking. So I agree.
Thank you, Alberto.
Everybody's been very good with the time, I have to say. I'll go next. Just to say that in my experience, we, as Johnny said, we did have this divide, didn't we? There was, it's always duality in the world we live in. And I think one of our challenges is to find the unity within the duality. So for me, it's about looking for the unity, look at what unites us rather than what divides us. So that's very much how I live my life in a way. And I think one of the things that, in the truther community, as well as in the other community, is that, nobody is right. Nobody has got the whole truth. You've only got your own truth. So, even if we're saying, well, what about this and what about that? And we feel all these things happening, they shouldn't be doing it or what have you, we're not necessarily right. And we don't necessarily have the whole picture. So I think we also have to take a humbling step back and just find the truth for you. That's my advice to anyone. Find your own truth and just live by that. And if people don't actually adhere to you, well, they don't. It is sad when it's friends and family and people you love, but one of the spiritual lessons is to be detached from it and to not try to control the outcome, because that's the other thing in the world we've been living in. Everybody wants to control something, even if it's not themselves, it's something else. So let go of the control. And just for me, anyway, I live my life. I'm happy with my truth, and I understand it's evolving and it doesn't stop. It changes day by day, but I just look for the joy in the things every day, and I'm grateful for things every day. So I just look for the joy, and for me, there's joy everywhere. So I think if you look for the joy and you stay in the joy, you don't get triggered so much. And you don't lower your vibration as much, and you don't stay in that place that's not a happy place. So for me, it's about raising the vibration. It's about feeding into the collective, and it's about us all being happy together, as happy as we can possibly be. So that's me. Even I finished early.
Thank you, Gail. You just reminded me of something, and that is the word acceptance. And I spent a long time going to 12-step programs over the years, and one of the key things that they look at is acceptance. And we just have to accept people, because everyone is different and we all have opinions. And I think it's okay for people, or it is okay, obviously, for people to have different opinions. And I think probably what I've gleaned from the past conversations we've had in this format is that the media has been responsible for a lot of divisive propaganda, which has divided people. And whether they're doing that on purpose or not, I think they probably are, but that's my opinion. And it's okay if everyone else on this call has a different opinion. That's my opinion. I'm welcome to have that opinion. So, you know, I mean, I have a very good friend who has a lot of very strong opinions and spent a year trying to, a year and a half trying to persuade me to have the vaccine. And that was pretty difficult at times. But, you know, I do love this person and accept them. So anyway, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit there. Who would like to comment next? Laura.
Right.
There you go.
Can you hear me now? Yes. Yeah. Firstly, I would like to agree with every single word Gail just said. And you and I have recently discovered the Union of Free Speech, haven't we, Johnny?
Yes.
And they are not awake. They are not awake to most things, but they've noticed their free speech has disappeared. So what really resonates for me is how everyone's coming to the truth from different directions. Some came through COVID, some are coming through free speech, some are coming through local council corruption, some are coming through greenwash. So I feel that my spiritual job when I meet somebody is to establish where they are and build on that. Not for me to lecture them about COVID or tell them a load of crap that they can't, well, not crap, but I mean, not overwhelm them basically with stuff they can't possibly handle probably, and then the shutters just come down. So there's no point using tactics that don't work. We meet somebody and we have to establish where they are and how we build on that in their journey to the truth. And I think we, like Gail said, I feel comfortable within myself with where I'm at. I'm still evolving like Gail is, but I feel fairly comfortable with my truth and I don't feel I'm too far off track, even though none of us know the whole story. None of us can say with any certainty that we're 100% right on most things, but I think most of us know enough to know that we're on the right track. But the thing is, we've also learned over the last 2 years, there's no point overwhelming somebody with information that with the cognitive dissonance and with all the stuff they've been through. And people are likely to lose their shit very easily, like your example, Johnny, of the christening, where this woman completely flew off the handle. I think we have to accept there's a lot of people with shaky mental health and just kind of, well, don't worry, we're all going through a tough time. Just be like that about it when they kind of lose their crap and just kind of, look, don't worry about it. Everyone's had these blips. It's fine, you know. And also expect that they're going to change their mind. Like, I'm sure that lady wanted her christening video like a week later. And so don't be throwing things away when you know that person's likely to change their mind 5 minutes or a week later or whatever, because you know they're having some sort of episode. And we've actually been programmed that way over everything that's happened. We've been terrorized for 2 years. And it fits the actual Amnesty International form of torture. Amnesty International defined psychological torture, and it was almost word for word what we've been put through for the last 2 years, and it's impacted everybody, even us, to a certain extent, and we have to just recognize that and expect it, and then we won't be surprised. And I think meeting people where they are, for me, is the biggest thing we can do to heal the divide, because now they're trying to hit us with monkeypox, but much to my delight is not actually gaining traction. The whole internet is laughing at monkeypox and churning out hilarious memes, and no one's taking it seriously. And now they're trying to say, oh, you might have to have your pets put down. Really? A nation of pet owners? I don't think so.
Laura,
anyway, that's me. Sorry. I was finishing anyway. Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, I can't turn this off. What's going on? Hold on.
Thank you, Laura. I completely agree with what everyone's said. Yeah, and the point you made about just meeting people where they are. You know, I think when we encounter somebody, it's very important to really get into their world. How are you? What's going on? Just listen to people. I think listening is a thing that, well, we all need to be heard, and you know, listening is a skill, and we can practice listening and consciously practice, and who knows, we might find out something interesting about somebody that we didn't know. Building a bridge. Yes. Who would like to go next? People are welcome to come back in again if you have another thought, of course.
Yeah, for me also, I used to try very often try to convince my friends even before this thing happened about what I thought very strongly that it was going to happen, or it was already established basically. And now, and I did that recently in this weekend as well, when people were starting about talking about the monkeypox, I just said, okay, I don't want to be in this conversation. So I suppose and I just move away. I just let them talk about this. But for me, that's the change. I don't want you to confront the situation, and I don't want to listen. So it's me who has to move away as well from discussing about certain subjects that I don't want to hear about anymore. Instead of trying to say, no, I don't believe that, so I think this is that or that. Yeah, it's another way of acceptance, and also accepting my own peace of mind. In this case, it's like, okay, whatever is going to come is going to come. I don't want to discuss beforehand, and yeah, it felt right for me. So, and at work as well, in some meetings, we have a lot of meetings online and they start to talk about these things. I just leave the meeting, come back in 10 minutes, and the conversation has changed. So yeah, that's also another thing maybe.
Thank you, Alberto. You reminded me about another important point in life generally, and that is, you know, it's okay for us to have boundaries and say, yeah, I don't want to talk about something if you don't want to talk about it. We've been inundated with all sorts of things over the last couple of years, and it's tiring. Well, it has been for me. So I don't want to subject myself to too much. Well, I don't watch the news or read newspapers, so I don't, because I just don't find it a contribution to my life. You know, and with people and friends, and, you know, sometimes we have to make a boundary, which is an act of self-love, which is another way of closing the divide, because we have to take care of ourselves first. You know, we can't be pandering to other people's demands, because sometimes people can be a bit demanding. And just another thing I've noticed, I don't know if this is true, but as I'm driving, I've had a couple of people try to drive me off the road in the last few months, like extraordinary, for no apparent reason. And I found it quite disturbing, obviously, when that happens. And I think because we have been subjected to so much negative, draining propaganda, I think people who don't have the skills to process all of this, and this is just my opinion, I might be wrong, are losing their shit. And it's coming out sideways, and it's coming out in strange ways. And that's why, well, the reason we started having these talks is because I personally believe it's very important for us humans to be talking, because that is a way to process our understanding of what's happening in our life. So, yeah, so that's that. Who would like to add the next comment?
I just want to jump in at, oh, sorry, Fiona, you go first.
Fiona's just raising.
Okay, I just wanted to say that we also have to remember that everybody is on a journey. I know that sounds a bit of a cliche, but, you know, everybody's on a journey, and their journey is not necessarily your journey, and they're not necessarily at the same place that you are. So we all have to be very respectful in a way that, you know, some people will never get to where you are. Some people are way past where you are, and some people are near you. So I think we just have to be respectful that there are some people who, you know, it is their journey and it may not be our journey, but again, we have to be compassionate about that as much as we can, to say that, you know, wherever they're at, well, maybe that's where they need to be. Anyway.
Did you want to say something, Fiona?
Okay, great. Yeah, I really appreciate what you're saying, Gail. And one of my points has just slipped out of my head. But one of them was about, you know, there's an amazing book that I've read over many decades called, I think it's called Bringers of the Dawn. I think it's called Bringers of the Dawn. It is called Bringers. You've read it, yeah? Cool. And that they sort of have this idea that there's these light workers on the planet that come from somewhere else, and that they're in human form, and that their sort of mission, if you like, is to raise the vibration of the planet by coming on, and simply by keeping their vibration up, living their dreams, expressing freedom, and by doing that, many of us doing that, then we help this planet to raise its vibration, sort of thing. And so, yeah, I think it is really important, like you say, all of you, to protect our own energy and not as much as we can get sucked in too much to it. I also want to say that I feel, I can't remember who said now, but I feel guilty now we're talking, because I realised that when I was quite afraid of the vaccine, and for my friends and family, I was pushing out a lot of posts from Cambodia, and my aunt sort of kind of opposed me, because she was one of the, oh, look at me, I'm taking my vaccine and staying at home, and she didn't like what I was doing. And anyway, when I came back, my family have banned me from, you know, they've basically blanked me ever since, really. I mean, so I think that, you know, I'm guilty in a way of doing that, of pushing beyond where they're at, but I was kind of felt desperate to inform people of what the consequences could be. But you know, maybe it wasn't, maybe I shouldn't have done it. But I was quite passionate about it, and I could feel myself directing my energy a lot to my aunt after she sort of opposed me a bit. I felt myself almost, all my posts seemed to be like, get this, you know, to my aunt, and it didn't work, like you say, and we've never.
Your time's up, Fiona.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No, carry on for a few little one.
Can I? Oh, I can come back. I don't want to break the rules.
You can finish what you're saying, Fiona.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the last point was, that I've just remembered, is that there's an amazing spiritual lady on YouTube who's channeling from the star systems, and she said that through this great divide, yeah, she said she's an anti-vaccine person generally, but she said it doesn't really matter what side you're on, because through this great divide something new is being born. Yeah. And so we trust this transformational process. And that really uplifted me when I heard that. It made sense somehow. Yeah, that's me. Thank you for the extra time.
Thank you, Fiona. Alberto, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, comment about the last thing that Fiona mentioned, this anti-vaccine thing that we have been labeled with, because you are not pro-vaccine, you are anti-vaccine. This is already division. So I prefer to say I'm pro-freedom I choose not to have the vaccine. And then the people that are pro-vaccine, I'm pro-freedom. Is different because apparently the vaccine is the imposition, right?
Yeah.
So for me, that's a comment that we'll do with this division, maybe in the language.
Thank you, Alberto. Oh, I realized I forgot something quite important today. Normally we have a little meditation just to bring us all to this moment. And anyway, so if we just want to take a moment, we won't do a full meditation, but just take a couple of deep breaths just to be here with us now. I mean, you are, obviously. Oh, that was nice. Thank you for that moment. It was beautiful being in silence with you all for a little while. While you were talking, Fiona, I was reminded of the book I read called Conversations with God. And I'm talking about book one because there was, I think, 3 books written or 4. But book 1, on page 121, is a chapter about relationships. And I know that because I've read it several times, because whenever I've been in a romantic relationship, this has been a very useful chapter for me to read. And if you don't know about the book Conversations with God, Donald Walsh, or whatever his name is, channeled supposedly this conversation with God, and he asked him many questions and got this download and wrote this book. And it's a very interesting book. But of course, on the topic of relationships, which we all have to deal with, whether it's friendships, we're all having relationships. You know, that's it. We have stuff and we have relationships, and the relationships is the important bit. And of course, it is a complex issue, and because we are, as you say, Gail, all at a different point in life, in development, in consciousness, or we're just all in different places on every different possible scale. But one of the key questions within this relationship chapter is ask yourself the question, what would love do? And that's not as simple as it might sound, because the loving thing to do, you have to consider yourself, what's the most loving thing for me to do in this interaction? It might be to say, I don't wish to continue this interaction anymore. Or it might, but it's a very interesting question, I think. And it helps us to think of a more compassionate, well, in my opinion, it helps me to think of a more compassionate sort of approach to whatever I'm dealing with. Anyway, so I thought I'd mention that in case anyone wants to read it.
Thank you.
Who would like to make the next comment? Yes, Fiona.
On that note, I just remember one time where I managed to change an energy that my dad often came at me with, and he made some sort of quite aggressive joke, which was his way, and I was like, oh, it's gone in. So I just went and meditated, and I just sat with it, and I suddenly came up with the right way of dealing with it, and I just cracked a joke back to him that was just it was, I wasn't carrying it anymore. I just made a joke. It was quite a sweet, and I said, I love you. Yeah. And that it just diffused. I wasn't carrying that anymore. And it was symbolic really of like how I wasn't carrying the stuff from the past really with him anymore, that I'd healed it somehow, we'd healed it. And, you know, I can rise above most of the time what was going on. So yeah, it's that little dip into meditation, sitting with something, can really help and give you a different way of dealing with it. And taking the space, like you said, Johnny, walk away from it. Don't engage when your emotions are all like this, or because it'll only flare, won't it? Usually. So that was it.
Thank you, Fiona.
I think I'm just going to pop in again.
Please do, Gail. You're always welcome to pop in.
I think for me personally, in terms of relationships, romantic or otherwise, I try to see the person, the good in the person. I mean, not to the point of you don't see when they're doing things that aren't great. I think you have to be, you know, very boundaried and say to people when you're not happy with what's going on. But you know, for me, for example, my ex-husband and I were very, very friendly, and everybody keeps saying, how can you have that relationship? I don't understand it. People say that to me all the time. We've got children together, but, you know, he isn't a bad person. He's just not great for me as a husband. And that's a very different thing. So I don't see myself as the victim. I see myself as somebody who got out of the relationship and then came back and said, well, hello, I still like this part of you and that part of you and this part of you, but this bit I can leave behind. Thanks, but no thanks. So I know I'm not saying everybody can do that, but I think if you strive to see the good thing and not be the victim in it, because personally, I think we spend a lot of, humans spend a lot of time in the mire of, you know, like being jealous or being the victim, or we spend a lot of energy. And if we just take that energy and flip it to something a bit bigger and a bit more positive, then you'll have a happier life. And that's really, I think, the trick.
Thank you, Gail. Yeah, you've reminded me, another thing they mention in Conversations with God is it's not really about how do I react to this situation. It's about what do I want to create within this situation or the next situation or any situation. How do I want to create myself in relation to everything in my life? So yeah, so that's kind of, I mean, at church, and I'm not a big reader of scriptures or anything, and I'm not even that sure about Jesus Christ, but because it's such a big story, what I do is I choose to believe it. Now, I don't know if it's true, but I choose to believe it because it's such a big story, and because Jesus Christ was this being who was pure and didn't commit any sins. And one thing that they say at church is, how can we be more like Jesus? Now, some people might be Buddhists, so you could say, how can I be more like the Dalai Lama? It's basically, how can I be more like a spiritual being who doesn't have such reactions in everyday life? So that's something I sometimes think of, and especially when I'm driving, because I'm a bit impatient when I'm driving, and well, I can be, not all the time, but so I have to sort of really check in with myself. And another thing I heard at a talk somewhere, somebody said, rather than just trying to make all these massive goals and be this amazing person and manifest all these things, why don't we just try to be 1% better than we were the day before? So when I'm driving, I'll just be saying 1%, 1%, as I'm sort of doing a namaste pose whilst holding the steering wheel, obviously. Anyway, I thought I'd share that.
Yeah, I think that also I'm trying to learn still about how important is the relationship with ourselves, because sometimes the best result is to move away from a relationship, regardless what it is romantic or not, or a friend. And I was just remembering a silent retreat I went to a Buddhist temple in North London. It was 3 or 4 days, not talking a word. So, and we were going to talks by a monk, but we couldn't make questions speaking. So we were putting papers on a basket, and then the monk was discussing about this question. And I remember at the moment, I was also struggling with a situation with a person, and someone else put in the basket a perfect question that it was going to help me as well. And it was, how can you forgive someone who doesn't know is doing something harmful to you? And the response was very, very wise, I think. And it was, forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for yourself. And he was also saying that sometimes if we keep going to the same person that is harming us, then this is stupid. You have to be wise to put yourself away from the situation, because not everybody is going to be aware. So yeah, sometimes what we were saying earlier is the relationship with ourselves is also putting the boundaries at the right time with the right person, and that helps a lot as well. So yeah, that's it really.
Muchas gracias.
De nada.
How about Maria or Felipe? Would you like to say anything?
Yeah, why not? I'm listening to you. It's very interesting all what you said. And when we talk about rising the vibration, there is many channels on YouTube, actually, many women especially. And that's interesting that they said that the earth is rising the vibration. On one part of the people, we are all trying to manage our energy to be in good balance every day. The problem is sometimes we meet people, we are not in a relationship with them, but we discuss with them and we perceive that their vibration, and we are impacted also by the low energy vibration, means negativities. A lot of people have negativities. And then we talk to them, and when you stay in this negativity, you have a connection with them. You become a little bit negative too. And the problem, the difficulty is for me to get out from this negativity and to recover my balance, and especially my divine inside, that the connection that I'm doing, I'm sure that it is from the light. But when I'm sure it is from the light, I feel so happy from my heart. Then again, I can share with other people, and the negativity is less impacting me. Well, if you do your practice in the morning, for example, okay, I would like to go to this place and I have to take the car. So maybe there is so many accidents. There is so many things happening. For me too, I have an accident with bicycle. I fall down in October. But now I ask for benevolent outcome or benevolent prayer. They said, I ask universe to be protected during this travel, and that this travel will be as easy as possible. And it's like you ask for miracle, and miracle existing. You just have to ask. This is my experience. Having people who doesn't know in God, know in whatever you said in spiritual, in angel or in God, when they ask for something, there is also my friend, he has a broken car and the garage said, you cannot find the space for your car, you can put your car, it's finished. And I said to him, we have to do a benevolent prayer to find the right piece for your car. And we do it. It's at the front of the car. We asked universe to find the best way to repair this car. And the next day, you know what's happened? A miracle. The garage is found to him, and he come to see me. Wow, the garage is found to him. He's find the piece. You see? I say, you got into miracle. So in this moment, he's practicing every day he's doing bicycle or he's doing things. He's done said, okay, because many times during our day life, we get angry because, oh, there is too much car. I'm in late. You know, you have kind of hunger coming out, you know, from ourselves sometimes. But when we do this prayer and we breathe, of course, do some breathing exercise, it's like we are, someone is taking care for us. Like our guardian angel is thinking, no, don't go this direction, go this direction. Yeah, you listen your little voice. So that's my experience. Thank you. I have no more.
Thank you, Philippe.
Okay, thank you.
Maria, did you want to come in and say anything?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, as far as the divide, my little sister is a medical worker. And when we had a conversation, because she lives in Italy, I'm in Portugal. We had a conversation by email that I don't want the vaccine. She was really angry at me. She was like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm ever going to see you again because you could die. And all things that I was thinking about what might happen to her because she's having the vaccine. So in the end, we kind of agreed just not to talk about vaccines. And that's the only way that we've not fallen, we haven't fallen out, or we haven't, we don't see each other regularly because we're far away, but we're still communicating. And it's really interesting for me because all the thing, like, was it Christine said, that all the things that I was concerned for her, she was doing the same back. It's like, yeah, who knows what the best way forward is, but I think it's just what you feel yourself. And if somebody's happy, they feel safe because they're having the vaccine, then I just said, okay, But my own feeling is, I hope I'm never forced to have it for any reasons. So I don't know, I haven't actually fallen out with anybody that's got vaccine. I've just kind of accepted, well, that's what they feel good to do. Okay, that's my bit for now.
Thank you, Maria. Lovely to hear from you and Philippe and everyone. I mean, I am, my friend who's been trying to persuade me to have the vaccine. We just don't talk about it anymore, especially now everything seems to have died down. But sometimes when I'm talking to my mother, we'll sort of slip into talking about something, and I realize that she has very strong views about, I can't remember what it is. I think it might be around the vaccine or something similar to that. And we both, and she's sort of saying, I think maybe we shouldn't talk about this any further. We'll talk about something else. And that is another way to deal with it, because it is, you know, we don't all have to talk about everything all the time, which is ironic because talking is good. Anyway, what a conundrum we're living in. Would anyone else like to make a comment?
I think Christine had her hand up first. Off you go, Christine.
Ah, yes, go ahead.
Well, I've just found as these months have gone on, and I'm very, very strong in how I feel, that I'm just attracting more and more people to me who feel exactly the same. I do Airbnb, and everyone who comes, within a few minutes, we start talking and it comes out that, and they said, oh, I knew you would be like that. And so that's really, really lovely. And I have fallen out with some people, and I wouldn't say fallen out. I've just drifted away. I'm not really that interested in anyone who's really following the mainstream narrative. I'm just not thinking like that. And so we've got, but also I work with a lot of people who really believe in it, and I just keep quiet. I just keep my head down because I don't want them to know. So it's funny times, but I feel very strong, and nothing's going to sway me, and I feel that's kind of quite good as we're all getting stronger and stronger. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Laura, would you like to come in?
Hi, I'm just wondering, are there any cheerleaders left for the vaccine in the UK? I don't think there are. Maybe there are still in other countries, but everyone, you know, who used to really advocate it seems to have shut up now or melted away, and the Facebook frames are all disappearing. I've had my vaccine or whatever. And in a way, I think the divide is almost kind of coming to an end of its own accord now that there isn't a vaccine to divide people. They're trying to find other ways, obviously, with race and sex and everything else, but and now the monkeypox nonsense. But I think so many people are awake now. It's becoming more and more difficult to scare people with stuff, and now people are having to worry about their bills. And actually, if you're going to run a slave world, what you can't do is mess with people's bread and circuses. You mess with people's bread and circuses at your peril, because that's when they really will start questioning what's going on. And it's actually a universal thing. It's not just going to affect one sector of the population. It's going to affect everybody. So I think, in a way, there's this kind of hyperinflation and this false crash is actually going to unite people in lots of ways, and it's something everyone can talk about and everyone can actually agree on in a way as well. So in a funny sort of way, I think the latest kind of tactics are actually going to bring people together rather than divide people. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Laura. Fiona.
Oh, yeah, it's been so lovely. I'm so sorry, but I need to go. And but it was absolutely wonderful to talk to spiritual, like-minded people. And thank you all. It's been lovely. Thank you so much for organising it, Johnny, as well. It's fantastic to see you.
Great to see you too, Fiona. Thank you for taking part.
Adios, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Fiona.
Adios.
Bye-bye.
Alberto.
Yeah, I was going to comment on Laura's what she said. I don't remember exactly. I think sorry. I think it was basically about how people are awaking to this And there was a point in all these last 2 years where I wanted to believe that these politicians or whatever they are kind of teachers, and it's actually an opportunity to learn about the opposite they are doing. So they are trying to reduce our power, because we have to learn how much powerful we are. And that's probably what I would like to think, that at the end of that, there will be more people. I don't think that everybody will be aware of that, but more and more people coming to realize that there is other way, and that we can control more part of our lives than we are allowed at the moment. And that we are actually more powerful when we are working together towards a same purpose or same goal. So I think that is happening. You hear more and more examples of people wanting to live in community away of this madness. So it's a big opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you, Alberto. You have actually reminded me of I can't quite remember where I heard it, but it was some sort of spiritual teaching or reading or something. And it basically did suggest that when you're having a very difficult time with somebody, or somebody is a particularly difficult, you just look at them like, thank you for being my teacher. Thank you for teaching me how to rise above so that I don't need to engage or battle with you, you know, because at the end of, I don't really know what else to say about it, but that is a good way to look at challenges from other people. For me, I forget things very easily. So having these conversations and being reminded from all the different suggestions that people have is really useful, because even though I won't remember it tomorrow, a couple of days later, I might watch this back and be like, oh yes, and I'll make a few notes, and that will help me get through the week. Thank you very much.
I agree. I second that, what you say. And also just a quick sort of summary of where I'm at the moment to underpin that things are changing, people are changing, but it is slow. You know, like anything spiritual, it's a slow process. It's a drip feed. And in 2019, before all this shenanigans happened, I worked in the NHS for about 17 years as an IT sort of project manager sort of person, not a clinician. But I understood, I went all the way around the whole NHS, so I understand it very well. And I decided that it was a dark area and I didn't want to do it anymore. So I took the leap of faith to say, okay, I'm going to stop work and I'm just going to try and survive. So then about 6 months ago, my house was having all sorts of problems. You know, garage doors were falling off. I had leaks. I had the electric went haywire. There was all stuff going on, and it was all happening, and I didn't have any money. And then this job came up out of nowhere, and it's back in the NHS, and it's lots, you know, more money than I was getting before, and I got the job. Now, I'm a pensioner, I'm a pensionable age. So, you know, I'm not the most desirable person to get this job. And I couldn't believe that I got the job. But I decided to stand in my sovereignty, that whatever was going to happen, I wasn't going to compromise. This is who I am now, and they needed to deal with it. So, sorry, that's my time gone.
Oh, Gail, I really want to hear what you're about.
Oh, well, I'll try and be very quick then. So in the course of the interview with the this recruitment agency that I've known for 18 years, because I'm a contractor, they asked me if I was vaccinated. And instead of, you know, my initial reaction, and I'm not an angry person really, was like, mind your own bloody business, quite frankly. But because I said, oh, you know, I sort of shot from the hip, they obviously knew, because if you're vaccinated, you don't say those things. So it didn't matter what reaction you gave them, like no comment or whatever, they knew that you weren't vaccinated. So he went on to tell the people who were interviewing me that I wasn't vaccinated, which I didn't know at the time. Then I get the job, and then he tells me, oh, I've told them you're not vaccinated, so, and they're okay with it. So I was like, okay. So my first day I turned up, and I've never worn a mask and I've never done a test. So they welcome me in and they're all masked up and they take me up to the offices, and I'm working from home. So they take me up to the offices and I'm sitting there and I'm chatting with my boss, who's the general manager of the service. And she's talking to me, and there's only the two of us, and she's got the mask on. And I'm thinking, okay, that's all very interesting. So she said, of course, we're going to, follow the government guidelines, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. I said to her, I don't wear a mask. I said, I've never worn a mask. Sorry. So anyway, she drew breath, and then she carried on. And then she was showing me on something on the computer, and she was sitting to my right, and she was clicking on all these icons. And then she clicked on this icon and she went, oh, sorry, that's the icon that you have to take the test every week and put all your details in. So I just turned and I just looked at her, and I thought, with these big eyes, and I just sort of thought, well, good luck with that one. I didn't say anything. I just sat there as if to say, there is no way, Jose. Anyway, she carried on, and then she offered me the job permanently. So all I can tell you from that story is that things are changing, because a year ago, I would never have been considered. I would certainly never have got the job, and they would have been forcing me to do all sorts of stuff. So I take heart from that people are changing. And even though they're good people who are a little bit asleep, caught in a bad system, I think they're changing, albeit a bit slowly. So anyway, that's my story.
Thank you, Gail. I mean, I have failed a couple of job screenings myself for not being vaccinated. And, anyway, that's what it was. Alberto, what would you like to say, sir? Or did you have your hand up from last time?
No, it's just it's very much related with that. I think is self-empowerment. Is the feeling of, okay, I'm keeping my position, my boundaries. And I actually recently I wanted to do a spiritual event as well, or spiritual, I don't know how to call it, but it was with a group of people, and they were requesting to have a test. So then I said, well, I have an oximeter. I'm happy to show that my oxygen levels in blood are okay, which means I don't have any problems with the respiratory conditions. You can measure my temperature, but I don't want to take any test. Would that be enough? And they responded, would you have a flow? I don't even know how it's called. And this quick test they do. And
lateral flow.
Yeah, that's it. Correct. Yeah. So I was like caught up in a situation where I wanted to do this workshop. At the same time, I didn't want to do any tests. And the first time I was kind of lying, like I was saying my nose was bleeding or things like that. And then I was wondering, now what could I do? So I said, okay, this is something that usually no one asks for anymore. And I'm actually wanting to do these things because I want to remove my fears, not to embrace other people's fears. So the response was actually, okay, we will let you know down the line if we are actually going to not do any tests. But the feeling of protecting my opinion in this case, or my decision more than my opinion, and it made me feel self-empowered, and also made me feel better probably than thinking that I may have to do a test that I didn't want to do. So yeah, it's kind of a division, but also the division in myself of these two decisions, wanting to protect my all this time not wanting to do a test and actually wanting to do this workshop. And yeah, for me, I think it was the right thing to do. Like, no, I'm going to reject this workshop if it's necessary, but I'm not going to accept to be fearful because other people are. So, yeah.
And it's all a choice, really. I mean, I chose at Christmas time, I was not allowed to spend it with my family because I wouldn't take a test. But that was my choice. And I said to my children, you do what you want to do. And if that means you go, you know, for the Christmas, you go. And there's no guilt here, you know, but for me personally, I'm not going to do it. And I stood by it. And then when we all got together at Easter, of course, all of that story had gone, and all the same people got together and nobody said anything about a test. And for me, you see, that's where they start to think a little bit, where they realize that at Christmas time, I was the only one missing because I wouldn't do something. At Easter, they realized that we were all together and nobody had died and everybody was fine. So it's a little bit, and sometimes if you stand up, you know, that's the story, but don't beat yourself up if you don't want to. You know, you do what you feel. Do what you feel is right for you, and don't let anybody make you feel that your choices are bad choices. Your choices are your choices.
Of course.
However that is.
Yeah. That's what it means, pro-freedom. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so we're coming up to 9. We're pretty much at 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for being with us today. It's been written. Doris, did you want to say anything? I noticed you've joined us a bit late today. If you're there, Doris. Okay, Dave, what would you like to say?
So I've been thinking quite a bit about closing the divide since the first session we did. And I thought, how do we make it really simple? You know, what's the most simplistic way we can do this? And then I realized what it was from my perspective, how I can close my divide in the most simplest possible way. And it was simply to stop needing to be right. That's it. Because if I stop needing to be right, I'll never have an argument with anyone about anything. I'll never oppose someone's view, and I'll just accept where they are. And that is me closing the divide. So needing to be right is, for me, the #1 problem with having a divide in the first place. We're all needing to be right against each other. So I'm just going to keep stopping trying to need to be right, because needing to be right is one of my go-to behaviors anyway. So if I stop doing that, I've cracked it. It's a work in progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave. Okay, well, I would just like to say thank you so much for coming along today. I always find it so useful to be talking to other people focused with the intention of finding a solution, you know, navigating our way through what are difficult, challenging times. And well, certainly in my lifetime in this country, we've never had such challenging times for me personally. And, you know, there's people from France and Portugal here today. So, you know, we've all had to deal with lots of difficult things. And I think just talking about things, being together, even though we're not actually in the same room, is really, really helpful and healing. So thank you very much. And let's all wave goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.